Thank you all for joining me. I am super excited to have you. Welcome to the second panel of the LinkUp, a virtual conference for girls, women in STEM. This panel is called Ethics and Bias in AI, Where is the Line? So we have with us two amazing people that are working hard in AI. So we have Hannah Claus and Kairo Morton, fellow Bermudian, Hannah from London. And we are going to just be talking about a little bit more about the more ethical side of AI. So what's the fairness, the data privacy, and just making sure that everybody is included in AI and also the different problems that can arise with it. I want to take a moment to just kind of highlight the fact that this is an all-Black panel of young students working in AI that are doing amazing things, just highlighting that level of Black excellence that we have in the room today. It's almost like, going back to those like historical moments with, for example, Martin Luther King, or even my grandfather doing his work, the late Kenyatta Young doing his work in supporting Black rights in Bermuda. It's just like looking at AI now bringing in this whole new set of challenges for us to face. Like even my mom just recently, because we just traveled back to Bermuda on Tuesday, but she was actually stopped like in the airport because she has braids in her hair. So you have like these moments of profiling, and then looking at what happens when you're bringing in these AI things. So looking at, trying to bring in a more automated version of the world. So instead of people looking at it, then you want to have AI doing these things. But who's really building all of these things? So who's the one that's saying, oh, if you see this person, they're fine, let them through. So, people's biases coming into when they're building these models, it's pretty scary. So we want to be able to talk about how we can make sure that we're still involved. And again, highlighting the Black lessons that we have in the room, two Black students that are working in this field and bringing it to the future. And, just making sure that we have a face and a place, as Dr. Joy likes to say, in the world of AI. So to see it is to be it. I'm so glad that we have you both here joining us. And then, later in the day, we have Dr. Karika Weldon, who is the sole female owner, the first sole female owner of a genomics company in the world. She's also a Black Bermudian. She's my mentor. I'm so excited. And so she'll be joining us later to talk more about generational knowledge and how powerful it can be. And then we also had a panel this morning called How to Raise a Robot, which was two men of color speaking about robotics and social robotics. So just looking at all these different fields that I wanted to bring you guys at the LinkUp so we can talk about all these things and show you these future careers that you could be working in. So it's more than just, you're gaming at home. You can go further than that. You can look at things like AI, which is what we're going to be talking about today. Woo. So I don't know if you're excited, but I am just feeling the chills. So very excited. So I'm going to get Hannah to introduce herself first, just a little bit about who you are and a high level of the kind of work that you're doing, because, we're going to dive deeper into it throughout the session.
Thank you, Kameron. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Hannah Klaus. I am half German, half Ethiopian, and currently living in London. I studied AI and robotics first, then went into AI and natural language processing, and now I'm currently working as a research assistant at the Ada Lovelace Institute, which is focused on the impact AI has on society. And I'll be starting my PhD in basically AI and natural language processing again at Cambridge in October. So yeah, there's loads of change happening, and these conferences like this, they're just so important. So I'm really happy to be here.
Thank you. And I'm going to hand it over to Kairo now to also do the same. Just introduce yourself and a little bit about what you're working on now.
Hi, I'm Kairo Morton, MIT 2024. I'm Bermudian. I just graduated with bachelor's in artificial intelligence, and I'm now living in San Francisco, working at a generative AI startup, doing 3D computer vision and things of that nature. I've done research before in AI, natural language processing, computer vision. Happy to be here and excited for this conversation.
Thank you so much. I'm very excited to have both of you. So I'm going to start off with you, Hannah, because you both mentioned it, the natural language processing. So for people that don't know, can you explain what that actually is? And I'm going to also put a link in the chat.
Yeah. So AI has lots of different branches, strands, and natural language processing is one of them, such as like computer vision as well, and so on. But if you focus on natural language processing, what we mean natural language is just the human language. And because there are so many different languages in this world, and each country has different accents as well, and depending on where you go, there's not just one language that you then have to transfer into these neural networks. So basically what we're trying to do is have an AI system that can then interpret and generate new human language, and that depending on which language you choose. And there are different applications such as I think machine translation, or just general any translation. Then you have ChatGPT, for example. That's a very good example of natural language processing. And yeah, anything that has anything to do with text and speech, that is all connected to natural language processing.
That's so cool. And I remember that you already said that you are a PhD candidate and you're focusing on natural language processing.
Yes.
So would you mind explaining a little bit about why did you pick that specific category of AI? And then also, what are some of the challenges that we can start to think about when it comes to natural language processing?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So yeah, I'm focusing on natural language processing, or short NLP, because to me, for example, ChatGPT came out. It was, everyone talked about it, obviously. And as a scientist, you want to try and find, okay, how does it work and what isn't working yet? And after spending hours with it, trying out different things, my mom, who's Ethiopian, started using it in Amharic, which is one of the languages in Ethiopia. And we realized that it doesn't actually work that well on Amharic. And in the end, we tried different parts of the languages. There's also a different alphabet. And that really blew my mind, because I thought, oh, wow. Okay, so this is just working for mainly European languages, or languages that have a lot of resources on the internet. And this is something that I really then went into, because I thought, okay, this is something that I personally can also work on. And I know that I'll be affected and my family will be affected. And I know that there are so many other people out there that will be affected. And after doing so much more research on it, I realized, okay, this is a big issue. And there are people working on this, but it's mainly people that are affected by it, because they see the problem and they know they're not represented in these big AI systems. So what I want to work on is to broaden the data set of diverse languages from all over the world. But also, a language is not just the text itself. There's so much culture, tradition in there, religious beliefs, the way a society within that country is constructed. So this all feeds into a language, and you cannot just use English as the basic standard and then translate everything. So yeah, what I want to work on is really to make all these language models that we have more equitable and more accessible to everyone in the world.
I think that's so important, especially when you're building these systems. It's important to think about who's actually building them, because as you know, for so long, it's been the same face, the same people making these systems, and not thinking about all the different other cultures. Like you mentioned, they're European or they're American.
Yeah.
But then when you start to look into more of like for example, the African countries, or even like some of the South American countries, they're being missed out. And with AI, I'm going to get you guys to explain it in a minute, but it's all very data based. So if nobody's talking about these things, we're going to get missed. So we're going to dive into that as well. If we could talk, I guess, Hannah, I'm going to ask you if you could talk more about making sure that we are represented in these kind of things. So how can people, let's focus on the researchers first. How can they make sure that they're including as many different people and cultures in their systems?
Yeah, so I think this is something that we just need to talk about everywhere, because if you look around where you are and you count the, 20 people that you work closely with, usually, in my case, they all look the same, have the same, social background. They all grew up in the same areas, have the same first languages. Basically, everything's the same. They have the same degrees as well. So you cannot really hear that many different voices if you're in a room with people that all shared similar experiences. So in this case, we just have to be a bit more conscious about who we're working with and realize, okay, there's so many more people out there. And, so many companies and research institutes say, oh, but we can't find them. Then you're just looking at in the wrong places. So people exist, people have that knowledge, people are brilliant, and they exist everywhere. And we just need to, be open and bring them in. So in this case, what we just have to do is improve the educational systems and make people more visible, like these conferences here. Like, you're doing an incredible job, and with this you're highlighting people that would otherwise not be seen. And with this, like, I never had a role model that looked like me, or that I could look up to, that did the same things that I'm doing now. And I wish I had had that person. And now I know that, okay, maybe the next generation will have these people. So, yeah, I think that's really what we have to do. Just show people, okay, we exist and we can do this. And yeah, include more people.
100%. That's kind of the theme as well, the conference.
Yeah.
I saw a quote and it just says, like, to see it is to be it. So to be able to see, like, that you guys, for example, are working on this, like Hannah, you've been studying at Queen Mary, and then you went to the Google DeepMind scholarship, and now you're moving into the Cambridge with the Gates. Like, these are all things that people wouldn't necessarily think about. Like, you would just think, okay, I'm going to go to university and follow, especially in Bermuda, like, we have like a very set path of where people are going to go. And then when you start to deviate, you don't find as many mentors in those spaces. So I wanted to ask Kairo, especially because you did your bachelor's in AI at MIT. Like, that's kind of the dream for every like STEM student. So I wanted to ask, like, you, especially as a Bermudian student, how did you get into that, and what really inspired you?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it started with robotics. I had the unique opportunity to go to a school in Bermuda at the time when I was in middle school and elementary school that had a robotics program, like the first on the island, and that was Summersfield Academy. And so, like, at the time, that kind of got me into programming and things. And then even still, though, Bermuda just being the size it is, and like we talked about, if you need to go the path you want to go, you're not going to have that many mentors. I kind of had to move away for high school and then university to get more exposure to robotics and then to AI. That came. So a lot of it was self-taught, following, the programming background from robotics that I got in middle school. But yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. And then just kind of snowballed from there. You get different opportunities, meet people here and there. And so it just kind of builds on that. MIT was an amazing experience, and getting to go to that school was mainly just for like the people you're around every day. I mean, the classes are good too, but like being able to interact with that level of professor and students, and you're like friends all the time. It was, a great experience for me. And so it's kind of that snowball effect, and really having to blaze your own path and be like kind of fearless in moving through that space. But I think it's a good trait to learn for sure.
And then if we could keep going with what your studies at MIT, I personally think this is so cool. So I know the other students will as well. So if you could talk more about what your research was while you were there, because I was doing a little bit of LinkedIn digging. So I saw that you were a research intern at Google, and then you went to be a student researcher as well. So if you could talk about what kind of, I guess, the skills that you learned at MIT and how that led to being at Google.
Yeah, so there's kind of a combination of things, because my first internship at Google was after my freshman year. So I interned this summer after my freshman year, and that was more like kind of looking at the combination of vision and language. And so I was looking at, doing research and how can we get AI and these machines to understand images and then be able to respond with text. Can you look at the video and be able to see what's happening in it? It's like general computer vision and like image understanding, video understanding through the lens of combining text and image data as you find it on like large scales. And so I was doing that at the beginning, my first internship, and then was back at MIT taking courses. And then next year I went back again. You saw my role change. It was kind of just a semantic thing between student researcher and research intern, but I followed up doing work on machine translation. As like Hannah mentioned, I was doing machine translation for web pages with the Google Translate team. And so that was a good time as well. And kind of in between that was MIT courses. And then following that internship, I had found a lab at MIT doing 3D computer vision. So more like trying to understand the world in 3 dimensions, not just two. You know, you want to look at a scene, you want to look at an image of the world and like know where everything is in 3D space, know what it is. And so doing research on that as well. And that kind of led me into the job I have now, which is AI research for a new startup in San Francisco that does 3D generative AI. So kind of.
I will come back to you on that one on the startup, but I do want to bring it back a little bit more to the looking at the ethics. So you're both looking at I guess some of the two big the parts of AI. So you have computer vision, and then you're looking at the natural language processing. So I wanted to ask you, especially you, Kairo, so looking at the videos side of things, because I feel like when you think about using like processing videos in AI, you definitely get this idea of, am I being watched? Like what is that kind of like privacy side of things? Like because you don't know how many cameras are around. Like I'm sure there's plenty. You just don't think about it. But like how do you, I guess, from a collecting the data standpoint, how do you make sure that you're collecting it safely and that you have people's permission when you're using this footage?
Yeah, so like I mean, this is going to be different place to place. At somewhere like Google, for example, you have the things where like that data was super secure when I was there. Like as an intern, it took like a lot of work to get to it. One, it's like basically think of like all of YouTube, Google has access to, right? And then it's like constant checks to make sure people haven't deleted the videos that you're training on, because you don't want to be training on something that somebody has wanted to be removed from the internet. And so you're constantly like having to update your data based on whether people have changed it, like maybe flagged it as do not train or like deleted it from YouTube or whatever. And so a lot of these things people are looking into. And then with the privacy thing, it's important. People have released a lot of open set data that you hope in some cases ethically sourced, but you got to be careful about some of these things. A lot of times, and for a lot of AI training, because of the scale of data we need, it's just a lot of web scraping, which can have faces of people, and we can kind of get into that when we talk about like these what that balance of faces looks like and how that might affect what your model or what your AI system learns. But yeah, I think generally it's something that companies are thinking about, but we always need to do better at. So.
And then I guess I wanted to actually both of you could explain like because you mentioned like the scraping, like web scraping and things, but if you could explain a high level, I'm sure that's a really difficult topic, but if you could explain just like a high level of what that actually means.
Yeah, sure. Basically, kind of from a high level standpoint, the internet has so much information every day, every minute. We're generating data, through all of our devices, uploading to all of the different services, YouTube, photos, whatever, Google Photos, etc. And so, because for AI, or I should say, AI does a lot better when it has more data. The best place to get that is from the internet, where we all put all of this data. And so typically to access that data to build our AI models or our systems, what we typically have to do is go on the internet and like go on something like Wikipedia and go through all the Wikipedia pages and pull all the text, or go through all the YouTube videos and try and download them. Have filters and things to make sure we're getting like the right sampling what we want. But that's what I mean. Like you're kind of going on the internet and like moving between web pages and trying to pull all the images and videos and text you can, and then make associations between that so your model can learn different things at a high level is kind of what we're doing. But yeah. Do you have anything to add on that? Or?
I did want to ask, I'll go back to you, Hannah. So I want to ask more from the, so looking at, because I think, Kairo, you touched on it. So like looking at having different faces in your models. So for you, Hannah, what is, I guess, that equivalent when you're looking at trying to find like representation for different people, but it's more from a language perspective. So looking at, I guess, accents or different like ways that people like to write things. So could you talk a little bit more about that side, and then how I guess if you could, how would we be able to sorry, I'm trying to think of a good word, but try to like increase our ability to increase that representation in the data?
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, because that's, I think, the main issue right now. If you don't have enough data for a specific language, then you try and reach for everything that you can get, but you also have to look at the quality of that data. So, for example, in my master's thesis, I looked at trying to have an algorithm that can only give me positive news, if such a thing even exists. But then if you have a data set that is mainly just negative news, or, for example, political news, then you can't really create an algorithm that you want if the data set is not right. So then if you go into different languages again, imagine you have a country where most of its data is still on paper or in some folders, but it's not really digitalized yet, and or you don't have access to it. So you automatically have less data accessible to you to train an AI, but also you don't know what the quality of that data is. So in that case, we first have to digitalize and, improve the quality of those data sets from those different languages, and also include them within that language and also within that country. Like, for example, Ethiopia has between 60 and 80 different languages, and they're not just accents, they're proper different languages, which means you need a data set for each language to represent it. But some of those cultures are, still in tribes, or they don't have that great access to internet. So yeah, there are loads of obstacles in between. And I think the easiest way to do it is just to have like a collective of different researchers from different countries work together on this, because I personally cannot use a data set or check through a data set of a language that I personally don't know. Like, I'm not going to go out and do something in Spanish if I don't know Spanish. So, and that is with every language. So that's why we need as many researchers as possible. Okay.
I think that does go back well to see it as to be, it's just being, different people being represented in training, I suppose. Like the people that are working on it, you'd want to be able to show as many people as possible. If you don't have experience, you shouldn't be, or you shouldn't, or you probably won't be able to as well as you can support or even like represent these different people. So I think one of the more famous examples of trying to be like representative in terms of data would be Dr. Joy Buolamwini in her research. Do you remember the mask that she had when she had to put on a white face mask just to be able to be shown and recognized by her own data set? Like that's like that definitely shouldn't be a thing. Could we talk a little bit more about that kind of aspect? So like if you're not included in these data sets and if you're not being shown, then you won't be represented. And I think, Kairo, you might have touched on it when you were talking about like having many different faces in an AI. So would there be a situation where, for example, if an AI hasn't seen a type of person before, that it wouldn't recognize it? Like, could you talk about that kind of aspect as well?
Yeah, I actually have a funny personal experience in this from high school, like one of the first AI models I built. So kind of take a little bit of an aside, but try and keep it to the point. But at the time, I was building a robotics project of a Nerf gun, and I wanted it to like track my face with some facial recognition stuff. And I was rushing the project. I didn't have time, and I trained it only on me and one of my other Asian friends' faces. And I said, I didn't want to shoot anybody else. So I said, just shoot me. And, in my head, I was like, the model has two choices. It has to pick, and it'll pick me, and it'll be fine. And when I started running it in front of my class, the camera saw one of my Black classmates in the back, and it had to choose, is this, Kairo, or is it not Kairo, basically. It's like, well, that looks closer to Kairo than it does to the other person. And so, like, inadvertently, you have this like personal experience with this technology where if data set is not representative, you can have really crazy outcomes. And so, in that sense, this is all because the models are going to learn whatever's in the data, and how you set that up is really crucial and can have really detrimental implications, like you talked about for the facial recognition. And so yeah, from that standpoint, I think it's important, like you said, that the data is diverse and that you make sure that everyone's represented as much as you can in your data set. And there are some things you can do after the fact, but like for the most part, it's really the data. Like you can't really substitute after you've built the models, so like, at the end, you can't add anything extra really to try and fix this problem. It's really like you have to do it from the start when you're collecting your data and building the data.
I think that's fascinating. And I think what you mentioned, like, even though that's, I love that story. It's really funny, the idea that he's going to go for the other guy and not for you. But then that does kind of lead me into thinking like more on a deeper standpoint. Like, for example, some countries, like governments, want to be able to use computer vision in terms of like monitoring people. So for example, like I mentioned, like, for example, if you're going to the airport as a Black woman, they're not looking, like even humans, they're not looking at you. They're looking at the profile that they have in their mind of you. So like, the hairstyle that you have, the dress, like whatever you're wearing. So it's just this thought that, for example, with these AIs, if you're looking at different people and they have that profiled vision of you, then problems will most definitely arise. So I guess I'll ask both of you from like both of your standpoints. So you, Kairo, from the computer vision, and then you, Hannah, from this natural language standpoint. I guess how can we not protect ourselves, but how can we make sure that this issue doesn't arise? Like, because we know about it now, we should be able to put things in place. So what would you recommend putting in place, like having your experience now with building more complicated models? I'll let you start, Hannah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just thinking about it because there are so many different ways. But I think the main point for me is you can split it up into what can you do personally and what can, other big companies do. And if it comes to companies, definitely employ more researchers from different backgrounds. Also, people that have just in general different educational backgrounds, Not everyone has to have the exact same CV. I don't think that really matters that much. And there's so much to learn from people that maybe studied psychology first and then went into AI because they have two different backgrounds then. But also, ethnicity. That's just that is connected to culture, language, and so many other things that is just not included right now in the whole development process. So that definitely needs to be changed. But you, as a person, just protect your data. That's the first step, I think. But also just make sure that when you use different services, that you read about them first and that okay, what data are they using from me, but also how accurate is this result that I get and how much can I trust it and how well does it work in my own language and with me as a user, because maybe I'm not represented but it works best for my best friend who's white. So don't just generalize everything. So yeah, these are just a few points.
So Kairo, I'll move it over to you now.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, I think Hannah covered it pretty much extensively, but I was just going to say your money also talks as an individual. Like you have power to shape the world you want to see with your spending dollars, with your vote. Given that you live in a democratic country, if you do, and so in that sense, yeah, I would say vote with your dollars for the companies that represent the people that you want to see represented. I think this happened somewhat recently with Google. I want to say in the last 5-10 years, their photo app, they spent a lot of time with Black photographers trying to retune the camera parameters to make sure it captured Black faces well. That's just like the fact they want to tap into the Black market, and they know that we as Black people are not going to pay for something that doesn't capture us well. And so pay for the things that represent you is what I would say. And that work for you and the people you want to see in the world. And so
I like that. Pay for the things that you want to represent you. I like that. I want to ask you guys if you have any, because I know, Kairo, you already kind of mentioned the personal experience, but have you had any personal experiences when you're building your AI models, or if you're working with somebody else even, any ethical dilemmas that you might have faced, and then how did you navigate them in your own research? I'm not sure whoever wants to speak first, but whoever's ready.
I mean, that's a really hard question because, for example, in a research group, you're surrounded by basically people with amazing backgrounds, cities, whatever, people that know so much. And obviously you want to think about every scenario, but you also know you have limited time, you have limited funding, you can't think of everything, and the only things that you think about depend on the people around you because you have limited knowledge still. So I think one example would be that, for example, when I worked at the German Aerospace Center, most people had the same background. They were all German or white as well. And then I came there with a background in AI and robotics, mainly speak English. Then I came there also, half Ethiopian. People just automatically assumed I wasn't German at all. And then you realize, okay, there are a few things that they have never thought of in their life. And that is not because they don't know it. It's just because they didn't grow up the way I did. And there are just culture clashes that happen. But I think these clashes are important for us to realize, okay, there are different voices and we need to listen to them, because otherwise we're just going to stay in our bubble and never move. And the fact that I got to work with them, and now like they've opened up and there are more international students working, and it's just incredible to see how far they get. And this is just something that is really important to see in the development of other companies and institutes as well, because we need to open up. We can't just stay in our bubbles. So yeah, I hope that was helpful.
Carol, I'll just ask you the same question.
Yeah, I guess for me, I was just trying to think like other than the one I mentioned, what comes to mind, and I guess the only one like more recently would be in my like the 3D research I was doing at MIT. On our like presentation day, I got approached by some people from like the MIT's partnership lab with the U.S. military, basically, looking into like just generally interested in like 3D reconstruction for faces, things like this. And they were just asking me about my research, and I was like talking to my professor in my lab, and I was like, I don't really want to talk to these people. Like he's like you don't have to, like they don't you don't owe them like anything in particular. And so like in these type of situations where like stuff, one, like I don't know what they're working on in particular, they can't tell me, and also like just generally not particularly a fan of like military technology in that way. You can just make decisions for yourself as a researcher of who you want to work with, what you want to work on. And so kind of that way as a researcher, and more so not in like the building of the models, but in the application of the models, like where they're going to be used. And you can, I mean, sometimes you have less or more control of that depending on the situation, but when you can, I would say, make conscious decisions for those things and think about it. But yeah.
I think I want to take it back a little bit more to the kind of looking at this AI part from the biases that get introduced into the data sets. So if you could explain a little bit about, I guess, how that really happens, because we talked about what happens when it occurs, but if you could give a high level of how something like that might happen, just for the people and myself that may not really understand it very well quite yet.
You can go ahead, Hannah. Give it a shot.
Okay, so generally, imagine you want to. I think your example, Kairo, was a perfect when you build the Nerf gun. That is a perfect example of bias, I think, because if you have a data set where, let's say you want to, see faces, and the data set just includes white men, let's say 20, one black woman, one Asian man, that's it, then that obviously there's not enough representation. And then when you train your neural network with it and then you want to use it later on, obviously chances are higher the AI is going to think is going to classify people that are white or were part of the data set better than people who weren't. So you either get misclassified, that's the bias, or you don't even get recognized at all. And this happens when the data set is just not representative enough, or when you use different parameters that just screw up the whole network. But yeah, that's why fine-tuning is so important. And you really have to look into the bias throughout the entire development stage. Like this is not something that you can do during the data set part and then you're done with it. No, it's the whole process, and you have to test and test and test in the end as well. Yeah.
And I guess just to add on to that, like from a tech, kind of from like how it actually works as well is not only like the big features, like we're talking about like faces where you can see that people are black or white or whatever.
Yeah.
Models, your AI model will cheat at any chance it gets, basically. So there's I'll get an example situation. I saw research where people were trying to classify X-ray images. That's maybe like for pneumonia or cancer or something like this, right? This is X-rays. You shouldn't be able to know anything about like who the person is, what they are. This thing was able to predict the race of the person with like 80% accuracy from an X-ray image, and like this is because not because like in some inherently way like black people have different. I mean, there's different, maybe some biological differences there, but like this is not the main issue. The main issue is like data collection wise. The hypothesis there is that like the X-ray machine in the areas with more black people has some specific way it takes pictures that's different from a hospital in the area that has more white people. And so the model can pick up on those differences and then figure out what the race is, even if like there's nothing to tell. So like, just even removing the race of the people from your data set and stuff like that doesn't work because your model's so powerful, it can cheat anyway and still figure it out. So it becomes kind of a much more difficult problem when you have, data sets that can be correlated in weird ways with, I guess, protected features that you don't want your model to discriminate with. And so, yeah.
This kind of opened a whole new part to my mind just now. I didn't even think about that, the fact that the AI models might be able to still recognize things even when you're not asking it to. That's a bit scary, but
Definitely. There's actually, sorry, just to add on this, to give a different example, because this one definitely, but this is also to do with, different facial structures, piercings, earrings, glasses, beards, whatever. But there was another funny one where it was trying to detect different dog breed, and there was one with like huskies, and the other one was a different dog breed. And because huskies are usually in colder areas, there's usually snow in the background. So the neural network actually trained on the background, not on the dog itself. And then in the end, it classified whether the dog was a husky or not, based on whether there was snow in the picture or not. So sometimes it goes onto completely different paths to recognize whether this is something or something else. And that's something that you only see after you've tested it and after you've seen, okay, maybe there are different points the network focuses on. So yeah, bias is so tricky to work with. That's why it's so important.
Wow. That is so interesting. It makes you think, like, what are the implications of that later? Like, if you have something in the background, will it change what kind of perception that these things will have of you later? Like, yeah, I'm thinking about it. It's like that. So I wanted to kind of take it over to more of, I guess, some of the more, I guess, use cases that would happen in terms of the AI and when these things are happening. So, for example, one of the big things that people are talking about right now, because I saw one of my neighbors just the other day, and I was telling him that I was interested in AI and I want to be pursuing it for my own master's, and he was like, "Oh, should I be worried about anything?" He's like, "What about those things that that can be like the deep fakes, for example?" He didn't say that exact word. He was like, "What if they use my face for something I don't want them to?" So, could we talk more about, I guess, that kind of aspect? I feel like that's where people can be quite worried as well, is looking at that whole idea of, if I'm talking, somebody can replicate my voice and make it sound like I'm saying something. There's just all these security worries. Could we talk more about, I guess, that side of it as well? I'm not asking you what specific. Kairo, I'll get you to start again.
Yeah, I think from like the fake side of things, it's actually a really difficult problem. Ideally, like, I want to sit here and make the answer that, like, okay, we have the AIs that are going to like make fakes, but we also have the AIs that like detect the fakes. But like this detection problem is actually harder than the making problem as of right now. And so for a number of reasons, but like, I think the main thing there is I think we really all just get more skeptical, which is unfortunate, but like, it's one of those things that I think will evolve with technology. Like, I think the best way I've heard it put is in the same way that, like, our parents and grandparents were more likely to fall for like the Nigerian email, the quote unquote Nigerian email scams than we were, because like we're just, we grew up in a world where those existed. That came into being like, when they got access to the internet. And so for us, like, I think you probably see it now, like even more so, where we'll see a headline and we're very quick to be like, all right, cool, that could be true, but like maybe not. Whereas like with our parents or people from previous generations, like the news was the news and that was all facts, and like that was to them like ground truth information. And so I think kind of the more attitude towards technology and how we interact with it will change given these new forms of things. If you see your friend saying something on the internet, like, it doesn't really seem like that, and you probably should be, oh, that's probably AI. Like that might be the calculus more so in the future than being like, oh, they're a bad person or whatever.
I'm going to pause because, sorry, Hannah, just because somebody had a question for Kairo, so I'm going to ask that after this. So Hannah, if you can give your answer, and then Kairo, there's a question for you at the end.
Okay. Yeah, just quickly on this. I think one of the main issues really with this is that we have so many science fiction movies and stories that have shown us dystopias and, bad endings to our world where robots take over or anything. But I do think that maybe we can now have more space to show, better ways our future can look like, maybe ways where, I don't have to answer to people whether I'm going to build Terminator or not, because that's not what I want to do, I want to be on the other side of that. But because that is something that so many people think about, they just hear doomsday and think, oh my God, we're all gonna die. I think now it's on us to show them actually, no, there is so much we can do better. This can help in medical research, in education, in so many places. And we're not trying to use this to make humans worse or society worse. We're trying to do the opposite. So if we start talking about these things more positively, I hope we can also get a better view on this and don't have to be maybe as skeptical as we are right now. But yeah, that's just me hoping for the best and staying optimistic.
I love it. So I'm going to transition to the questions. I'm going to make sure that the attendees are being, make sure you guys are getting your questions answered. So the question says, Kairo mentioned how he does some web scraping on Wikipedia, YouTube for data. Not sure if you meant that he's doing it, but I'm wondering how he validates these data as it's believed not everything on it believes not everything on the internet is true. I'm also wondering whether they have any ways of sampling the non-relevant and harmful contents from the scraping process.
Yeah, so like at big companies, there's like whole teams that work on data pre-processing and pipelines and things like that to make this all efficient and interesting, but like kind of at a high level. So I guess I'll work backwards on the question. For the scraping and like filtering side of things, what ends up happening kind of in the production setting is you would have like typically what you do is you end up training another AI model to look at your data and then figure out like, for example, you could have something that like, something like a hate speech detector, for example. You're looking out for certain keywords. And the image side of things, it becomes a little harder. You actually have to probably train like a classification model to like predict, things you probably don't want in the data and then filter those out. And so there's a lot of like different filtering processes you can go through there. And then in terms of validating truthfulness, that's a more difficult problem because like if I asked you to write down the equation for truthfulness so that I can put a thing on my data to say, if truthful, then, or if truthful, keep, if not truthful, take away, it'd be difficult to do. And so I think right now, the way we kind of solve this problem is we have our AI models that start off as super not truthful and kind of messy with their predictions and being kind of here nor there with truthfulness. And then we give them to people and we say, look, at this generations, which ones are truthful? And then we retrain the model on just the things that people are like, oh, these are the truthful ones, these are the not truthful ones. And we kind of tune the model to be more towards the human preference of what is, considered truthful or a good response. Maybe it's not truthful, but it's like a more nuanced answer that includes the fact that this may not be truthful, but this is what I think as of right now. And so this is kind of the process for truthfulness right now, but it's still a really difficult problem, especially in the natural language processing domain that I imagine Hannah has maybe some experience with or something.
Thank you for your question. That was really good. If anybody else has any other questions, sorry to interrupt you. If anybody else has any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll be sure to get them answered. Or you can unmute as well. You can talk to the panelists yourself. Go ahead, Hannah. Oh, sorry. I thought you had an answer to the question. Never mind.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I can answer a bit on this as well. It was about the web scraping and the
But I'm gonna actually I'll go back to another one.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah, I think Kairo answered it pretty well.
Yeah, you did a really good job. I wanted to ask more about the like looking at who's being made accountable. So like we kind of touched on it with this question actually, but who is being made accountable when these AI systems mess up, really, or when they're not really counting for different people. So when they're not as representative as they could be, is there a way for us to check? Is there a way for us to say like, hey, that didn't work as well as you said it was going to work, or I wasn't quite represented by this data. Is there a way that people are trying to, I guess, regulate that now? I'll get Hannah to answer that one.
Yeah, so that is one of the things that I'm currently working with at the Ada Lovelace Institute, because, those regulations don't exist yet, as they're not as complex as we want them to be, because all these technologies are so new, and most of the governments, the different countries, they it takes so long to get one regulation passed, one law passed. And by the time we have that law passed, there's already a new technology, a new problem to think about. And you already see how society has changed within that time span. So there are so many different problems that just basically pop up and you have to deal with them right in this time. So I think when it comes to this, it's really important to think about this in general. Everyone should just, take care of their data, read everything, just be skeptical of everything as well. Don't trust anyone with your data just like that. But also maybe think about regulation. Maybe think about, okay, how do you want companies to use your data? How do you want companies to treat you as a user as well? And that might even change how they're going to work on this, because they need to abide by these laws. And right now, because these laws don't really exist that well, maybe they have some freedom to exploit some users, and we're trying to, restrain them a bit so they don't have that much freedom anymore. But in general, this is basically you're fighting the big companies, and they have a lot of money, they have a lot of resources and influence, and governments are slow. So it's a steady fight, but I think there's so much more to come, and we all see so many surprises over the years. So yeah.
So I'm going to take a quick pause just to do a bit of more housekeeping. So for anybody that's attending at the moment, this is the time if you would like to connect with some of these amazing panelists that we have here. So we have Hannah Claus, who's currently a PhD candidate for the University of Cambridge. She's looking at natural language processing. Then we have Kairo, fellow Bermudian. He's just graduated from MIT. He's working in Silicon Valley. Yes, the Silicon Valley, just saying, So if you would like to connect with them, you can feel free to just raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can ask them some questions yourself if you don't want to do it in the chat. Or you can do it in the Q&A section as well. We can answer your questions in there. So just let me know. I'm here. I'm checking. In the meantime, I'll just keep going and asking my question. So I wanted to ask, so we talked a bit about like what happens when it's trained on not great data or some disreputable data, but is there a way to fix it when that happens? Like, do you just have to throw the whole AI out the window? Like, how do you fix these kind of things when something goes wrong? I might get Kairo to act if we haven't heard from you.
Yeah, sure. It's like I said, it's a difficult situation after the fact. There are things you can do. So Hannah mentioned fine tuning. This is this process of like you train your model that you let your AI model learn on some data you started with, and maybe that data is bad and like messy and not representative. And so the model starts off like biased or like very biased. And then later you like do some better data cleaning. Maybe you have a smaller data set now, so you can like be more particular about what you pick, and then you train it again on that one, starting from your old, the old starting point where you finished the last training. And so now the model learns with this new, better data. And you can have some people check it and do some tuning where the model tries to, go toward certain people's preferences for things. And kind of in that combination, depending on which people you choose and what data set you choose for that, you kind of direct your model towards different things. Ideally, right? Like ideally in this situation, we'd able, when we use AI models more, be able to be more personalized to you. So, I would imagine the model that, we might need in this panel as Black panelists is different than somebody else culturally and like, for many reasons. And so I would imagine in the future having, AI models that are more tuned specifically to you, trained on your data in private for your own personal use, away from the eyes of the big company, and also representative of like the things you need as an individual. And so that's kind of like the ultimate goal of this process. But as of right now, that's kind of how it works. Yeah.
And then I guess one of the questions I had, because I wanted to actually answer the question which was in the title. So we're looking at ethics and bias in AI, and we're trying to find out where is the line. So, I wanted to ask you guys, both of you actually, if you could answer, I guess, where do you think that line might be? And then also, like, how do we find it? Because I feel like there's in AI quite a lot of innovation, I can say, as like a high level of the craziness going on with AI. But where would you say, I guess, is that line in ethics and bias? And then how do we find it? Like, how do we make sure that people aren't crossing it when they do get there? So I'm not sure who would want to go first, but I would like both of you to answer if you don't mind.
Yeah, I can start. I think this is a really tough question in general. Like, the line is actually a gray zone, and no one really knows where it starts and where it ends. And depending on, who you ask, they have different answers, and then also where they come from, that changes it again. I think generally what we can say about this is listen to different people from different places. Don't listen to the five most powerful white old men that are currently, in control of most big AI companies. Listen to other people as well. And yeah, just think about what you can do as well and how you can protect yourself, your data, how you can protect the people around you as well. Maybe even, your parents, your grandparents that might not know that much about AI and bias. Um, stay stay updated, know what's going on, just so that you know what to, be aware of. Also, when it comes to social media, just don't believe everything that you see on there. But yeah, in general with bias, I think it's a long way to go, and we definitely need to just include so much more data and so many more people. So I just want to, I don't know, improve the educational system to a point where we can all be at the same stage and, have similar opportunities for everyone, so that I can go into a room and not be the only one, with my hair or my skin color or any background whatsoever. So yeah, I just want that. Right.
Yeah, in terms of the line, I think for me in particular, the line is in the application space. So more so to do with like, what is this thing being used for? And kind of trying to prevent things that have like highest probability of causing large scale harm. On the application side of things, I think regulation on like the research side of things should be much more limited. Like don't regulate it as heavily. And then towards Hannah's point of building, having people, AI researchers of all kinds, basically we want as many models for as many types of people as possible. And that can only happen if we have researchers from, all walks of life. I think the real solution to this problem is like, not typically, I think the governments will move too slow, like Hannah mentioned. It's really like getting as many kinds of models as we can into the world, into people's hands, and then letting people choose the models that best fit their needs. In this way, we don't have to impose as well, like any sort of, I'm the one who knows what, an unbiased model looks like. And so I shall give you all the most unbiased model that I think is unbiased. And, we would go more so with like, we're going to let you choose what's unbiased. And I think, kind of preserves individual freedom while still letting people feel represented. And so I like that approach.
That's related. And I guess I want to kind of wrap it up by going back to you guys. Like I mentioned, this is pretty amazing. Like we have an all Black panel in AI, Black excellence all around. I'm just like, I'm just super excited. I don't have the words to express how happy this makes me. So I kind of want to go back to both of you, if you wouldn't mind, I guess, giving some advice to the students about how you ended up getting into this, and then advice for them if they want to join you on the path as well. Like, coming up, I'm sure we have quite a few people of color that are joining us in the chat. Like we said, to see it is to be it. So if you can give some advice to the students that want to kind of join you on this path or this fight for more ethical AI, so what advice would you give to them? I'll go with you, Hannah, first, and then come back to you, Kairo.
Okay. Yeah, so I started out when I was 13 with computer science classes, and I ended up being the only girl and the only person of color with 20 other white German boys, and realized, okay, the first day was my personal hell, because obviously if you're 13, everyone is just, stuck in puberty, and really mean. But then I got so fed up and I thought, no, you know what? I have to show them and prove to them that I can be better than them, and that I can actually do this, and that I'm not gonna switch to drama or whatever they wanted me to be in. So I stayed, and I stayed for another like 5 years, 6 years, and I continued. And then I went to uni when I was 15, because I realized, okay, what I was learning at school wasn't enough for me. And I did so much like in my free time to learn more about, the things that I was interested in, because I realized, okay, what my school could offer me was not enough, or didn't represent my my ideas or my interests in the way that I wanted. So yeah, I just continued to learn and study and just grow by myself because I knew there was no one else that, pushed me or told me, yeah, go this way, or, there's this person that looks like you that does the same things as you. Um, so yeah, I had to become that person and just go through it, but it wasn't easy. And there are loads of people that will stop you and tell you, oh no, you shouldn't do this. Oh no, this is not what people expect of you, or this is not what people see in you. And just don't listen to them. Take this as fuel and just go and continue on your way. If this is what you're really passionate about, just do it because you'll see you're needed and your voice matters and you can have such a great impact. And yeah, whatever you do, just follow your passion. I know that might sound a bit cheesy, but yeah, just go for it because in the end, like it's about you. You're supposed to be happy with what you do, and it's not going to be worth it if you listen to people who don't know you. So yeah, just study, work out. It's not going to be easy, but continue. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Geez, that inspirational message, hard to follow.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I think I would just say like remember the age we're in. We have access to so much information really at our fingertips for most people. And I would say, if you have the access to that information, treat it as a real privilege and use it how you can to explore the passion that you have. If that ends up being AI, in which case, you don't need to, your school doesn't need to be teaching it, at the time. Like if you can access that through the channels you have your own self-learning. Like that's, how I got started in a lot of ways for most of the time before I was at MIT. And so I would just say, follow that path as much as you want to, and, don't get discouraged by the complexity of things. Take as much as you can from each time you do research on something. I feel like when I was learning AI, I probably watched the same YouTube videos about 7 times. Like, each time, maybe the math background wasn't there yet. And so I'm only understanding like the high level things. Like, all right, cool. I pulled what I can from this. And then, I watch it again, in 2 months. It's like, all right, cool. I have a little more math maybe. And okay, this makes more sense. And so I would say, just keep down the path. Perseverance is really the key here. And I think that's kind of what Hannah was talking about in the social setting. And I'm just saying, more in the technical setting as well, just like persevere across the board and really, pursue what you love. And you can't go wrong there.
And then just for the other self-taught programmers, like I myself am I'm self-taught when it comes to programming as well. Do you have any advice for them in terms of, I guess, finding the resources? So you mentioned YouTube. Like I'm pretty sure we're all YouTube babies at this point, learning things on YouTube. But would you recommend any other resources that you might have seen along the way that students can take a look at?
Yeah, go first if you have some.
Yeah, I mean, particular resources is a hard one. I think honestly for me, pick something that's like somewhat overambitious, but you still can make progress. Like you can try and make progress towards and just try and do it. Like I think the most learnings happen for me, like, even when I was first learning how to code, when it was like, all right, I'm going to build X. I don't know how to build it yet. I don't even know how to program yet, but I'm going to build this thing. And we're going to do what it takes along the way to get there. And like, maybe it won't turn out to the final thing that you thought it would be, but that process is really where you build up the skills of like taking yourself out of out of situations where you need to solve problems. And I think those were kind of the places in where I did the most learning, more than like just watching a YouTube video. It was really like sitting down and trying to build something. And so, yeah, especially, being in the startup world now, it's like all about like, what can you build? Like build it. Like if it doesn't exist, build it. And so I would say just go out and try and build things that you're interested in. And along the way, you'll learn and explore so much that it'll be super worth it, even if it doesn't turn out how you thought it was going to.
Yeah. And I think if you don't know yet what to build, or like, how complex it can be, there are so many people that write down every single step of what they built and how they built it and why they built it in this way. And even if that's not what you actually want to build, I think it's so helpful to just go through their like blog posts or through their GitHub repositories, read the comments and just see, okay, this is how this can potentially look like, and this is how I can build it. and then use this as your basis and then just build your own thing out of this, or use it as an example so you understand how the structure works, because there are so many little decisions you have to make, so many different parameters, and like you don't always know what that number means, and through those like different articles and blogs you can learn so much. And this is actually how I taught myself so many different things, because I read other people's work first and then thought, okay, I want to combine this work and this work and this work and this work, and somehow in the end I find the one thing that I want to build. So yeah.
I hate to do this, but it's the end of the panel. So for the attendees that are listening, I hope that you enjoyed this. This was such a unique opportunity, and I'm so glad to have been able to bring it to you. Thank you to Hannah and Kairo for joining me. This was amazing. So for everybody else, we do have some more panels during the day. So if you're still on that AI craze, you can come with me in the evening. So we have another panel, which will be led by Mr. Dmitry Nushkin at Treefall Consulting. He's going to be giving us some insights into AI questions that our employers want answers to. So if you're looking into getting maybe an AI internship, or you're already working in AI, then he's giving you insights into what kind of questions and things that they want to ask you. And then also how you can use AI for yourself as more of an assistant rather than, constantly typing random things into ChatGPT. So he's going to be giving you some insights into that. And then further onto the AI side, we have a robot that you can talk to. His name is Captcha. He is very sarcastic and he's always excited to talk to you. Well, I wouldn't say excited. He's more, he doesn't really like humans very much, but I'm sure that he's happy to give you all some more insights into, you can kind of experience it a little bit more about, actually talking with a robot. I'm personally very excited for that one. So yes, be sure to join me throughout the day, and I will see you at the next one. Our next panel is To Infinity and Beyond. So we'll be looking at aerospace and the space industry with 4 women from space and aerospace. Just saying, 4 amazing women. Woohoo. So I will see you in about, I won't say an hour, but no, not even an hour. I think 30 minutes. 30 minutes, I'll see you again. So thank you all for joining me, and I'll see you at the next session. Bye-bye.